Greetings from January 2023. It's time for my annual How Much Money Did I Make Last Year show. I'm going to be as transparent as I possibly can be. I'll show you all the inner workings of the finances of my business. And you will get to see what it's like to be a ball python breeder on their way, working towards the goal of being a full-time breeder. Let's jump in and check it all out. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here today. I can't believe one thing just dawned on me when I was cutting that intro promo, how lucky I am to say that I now have annual shows. I've been around long enough for it. The support of you all and the audience and my sponsors, I got to talk about them. They play a big part in what we're going to talk about today. I'm grateful for every bit of it. I'm thankful that I can even say this. This will be my third year on YouTube. I like to do it, but I get value out of it, and how I get value out of it is the interaction with the audience. So thank you all so much. Hey, if we've not met before, my name's Adam. This is the Proper Royals channel. It's about a family building a ball python business that I hope to make our primary source of income. We document everything right here on the channel as transparently as possible, and today's episode is a great example of that. Who talks about money and revenue and expenses and shares all that for the YouTube universe? I do. That's what we do on here. Check out the Linktree link down below. That will get you to everywhere that I am on the internet, including my direct email, which is properroyals@gmail.com. You can always reach me there. Also, if you'd like to be included in our monthly email list, I share all of our current inventory, even items that aren't on Morph Market just yet. Generally, I have some pretty aggressive pricing on there because you all have supported me by watching my content. So feel free to email me, properroyals@gmail.com. 2022 finances. How much money did I make in 2022? Let's just do a real kind of brief synopsis of capitalism. We would take our money in, which we call revenue, and we would subtract our money out, which we would call expenses, and ideally there's money left over, and if there is, we call that money profit, and if there's not money left over or that yields a negative amount, we call that a loss. Those sorts of long, complicated reports, or reports that we make much more complicated than that, sometimes we refer to as P&L reports. So if you hear me say P&L, that's profit or loss, profit and loss, P&L report. 2022, great year for me. I really advanced, I really grew very shortly. Matter of fact, I'll tell you the number, the raw profit or loss that I made this year. But stick with the video, because after that, there's a whole second level of business that a lot of people don't talk about and that we're not taught in school, and that has more to do with cash flow and assets are what can make us money in the future. And I think it's important to look at, did we expand or contract when we talk about assets as well. So we're going to cover all that in the video today. Before we dive in on that, as I said earlier, I got to give just a huge grateful thanks to our two primary sponsors, which are Cold-Blooded Cafe and REDLINE Shipping. Cold-Blooded Cafe produces the highest quality of frozen thawed rodents for your animals. Go check out their website to see all the technology, the care that they give to their animals. Use the promo code CBC, as in Cold-Blooded Cafe, CBC5, to save $5 on your next order. REDLINE Shipping, started by reptile enthusiasts for reptile enthusiasts. Robin Marklin has assembled a phenomenal team at REDLINE Shipping. Go check them out. You're going to have a better experience. I used both of these companies before I ever got into business with them. That's how confident I am that you should check them out. Use the promo code PROPER5 to save $5 on your next label from REDLINE Shipping. Revenue 2022. If we remember our money in, which we call revenue, minus money out, which we call expenses, and the difference in those two numbers we'll call profit or loss. So we need to fill in those blanks to figure out what I made or lost this year. So it was a cool year, and to give a little bit of context, I'm coming into my third year breeding, so this was only my second season. 2022 was my second breeding year where I had my own hatchlings that I was producing from those animal sales. My animal sales this year were $11,931. That's really cool. Call it $12,000 for easy math. My sales the year before were $4,500 on animals. My goal had been to triple my revenue from 2021 into 2022, but I wanted it to be my total business revenue, and I've spent a lot of time and effort on trying to diversify my streams of income even within the Proper Royals business, because we have all seen markets go up and down. There's times where the markets are flooded. There's time like the fourth quarter of the year, everybody's running the craziest sales. It's almost not even worth getting into if you have a limited supply of animals. May as well wait till spring when everybody's out of animals and then make your money. What I wanted to do was have other sources of income to hedge some of those market fluctuations, and this year on other revenue, which would comprise primarily of sponsorships, YouTube income, and some dry goods. So like I bought an ARS rack this year. I was able to actually sell my DIY racks that I was proud of. They were great racks. I sold those and recouped some expenses. So that was some revenue. And that revenue, that all totaled $3,310. So my total revenue for Proper Royals for the year was $15,241.78. So $15,242. That's great. I did reach my goal of tripling my gross revenue, and $15,000 is great, but probably for most of us, certainly not for me, it's not enough to live on, and that's before we talk about any expenses, right? Let me pull out those. A lot of people want to know, like, how much money do you make on YouTube? We're going to get monetized and we're going to get rich, right? Let me give you that total. My pure Google revenue from advertising on YouTube, or advertisers paying me on YouTube, and the super chats, stickers, all that sort of thing. So any money that I get from the YouTube platform that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten, that totaled $965. Again, not getting rich, but as another line of revenue, that's $1,000. That's a good snake. That's a good investment that we can put to work for us, right? So I was pretty happy about that. My dry goods and my sponsorships made up the balance of the $3,300, or $33 minus $1,000, $2,300. So all three of those together came to $3,300 of revenue. That's that part of the $15,240 something or other that I made for the whole year, animals and non-animal revenue. Now then, what is the magic number for expenses? When I talk expenses, I break it down into several categories. I've got daily operations, which would be things like cocoa, things like feeders. There's things I need every day. Soap to wash my tubs with, but not a whole lot. Now that adds up to a lot of money, but there's not a whole lot of things I need day to day. Paper towels, maybe I have to buy new deli cups this year. Those probably have a shelf life that I need to figure out what that is. I'll start wearing through those, but not too much. Like these are non-durable goods that I know I'm going to have to replace. I will use up the cocoa, got to get new cocoa, etc. Those are the daily operations, and again, of course, the feeders, whether it's frozen thawed or I do have some animals that I feed live, especially the hatchlings. Everything starts on live. The other is a category I call discretionary and capital improvements. I say discretionary because in some ways I had to have them, and other ways I probably could have gotten by without buying them. So for example, I bought an ARS rack this year. I could have spent less on a DIY rack, and it's debatable in the long run whether I really needed to spend the money on the ARS rack or not. I prefer it. I think I'm more efficient with it, and it's a better product than I could build. Would my other product have been good enough? Absolutely. Would it have been equally as good? It could have been. Check out Kai over at Lucas Landon Royals. all DIY racks, and he's fantastic at it. You don't have to spend ARS money. I chose to, so that was discretionary. The other things are like capital improvements that again are discretionary, but the idea being they improve efficiency and they improve my ability to make money, or they reduce the amount of time I need to so that I can make money in other endeavors with the time that I have. So like my big sink that everybody seems to love, that was a discretionary purchase. I owned the sink already, but I had it plumbed in this year. I brought in a professional commercial plumber. That was a fair amount of money. And then some other things we're going to talk about a little bit later that where it actually turned out to be beneficial to me to raise some expenses at the end of the year. We'll talk about that in the second part of the show that I was telling you about earlier. But I actually went ahead and invested in a new laptop from, it's a MacBook Pro. Not cheap, it's the 2022 model. It's brand new. That's going to last me a long time, and I opted to purchase it this year. Again, we'll talk more about that a little bit later. I bought displays for shows. Again, I don't have to buy those, but it provides me an opportunity to sell more animals. So I bought ARS displays. Those discretionary and capital improvements, those were significant. Some other capital improvements that weren't significant are like my great big incubator. I actually found a wine cellar that didn't cool anymore. I bought that. I can hold about 40 clutches in that thing. That is going to keep me covered for 2 or 3 more years before I'll need to add another incubator on that. So I got the wine cellar for free, and then I converted it to an incubator for about another, I don't know, 100 bucks, 150 bucks or something like that. So not everything is an ARS or a brand new MacBook. You know, some things are, you know, I'm still grinding by. Discretionary and capital improvement purchases. And then the last thing is a cost of goods. And cost of goods is when you buy something and then you resell it. And in this case, I'm talking about inventory of animals. I bought a lot of collections this year. Most of what I bought because I wanted those specific animals. But sometimes I did a whole video on buying collections, by the way. You can check it out right here. A lot of times in a collection or a group of animals, there were 2 or 3 or 4 that I really wanted, and then the others were good animals. They were healthy animals, well vetted, well quarantined, and that I could sell later down the line. What I paid for those animals is called a cost of good, and that is an expense that's offset versus my sales or profitability. So it brings my profitability down, but it brings my tax liability down. That's why I have mine set up as a cost of goods. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. If you want to take all the expense on the front end, you can have your CPA set that up that way for you, or you could do it cost of goods my way. This is a really smart time for me to give this disclaimer. Everything I'm saying about anything I do with taxes or business-wise, I use a tax professional. I use a CPA that is a tax specialist. I've never lost money paying this man. He's done my taxes for 15 years now, 16 years. I don't know, a long time. I trust them. They know me very, very well. Having that personal relationship and trust with a tax professional is vitally important. So I follow his lead a lot of times. I keep in very close touch with him whenever I have business decisions to make. So cost of goods. There were some animals that I sold that I had expenses on this year that I didn't produce myself. When you put all of that into a blender of expenses, my expenses came out to $16,749.62. That means from a straight income to expenses differential, I actually lost $1,507 this year and 84 cents. There you go. That's the truth of it. Don't go away, because we're going to dive into a whole different related topic, but a whole different perspective on this. And I'm going to bring a lot of context. Let's pick that apart a little bit. I lost 1,500 bucks on the. I did some quick math on the discretionary and capital improvements, the stuff I truly could have done without. The higher end ARS rack, the higher end MacBook. My business would have gone on without a brand new Mac. Now at some point I was going to have to buy a computer. I'm a Mac guy. I like their video editing software. I could do it very fast. These new processors are amazing, etc., etc., etc. But truth be told, I did not have to spend that money on that. The true discretionary money is about 5,200 bucks that I spent this year. So if I hadn't spent that, I would have been profitable to the tune of what, $3,700. that's cool. That's a lot of actually really good investment money on snakes, especially these days with where the prices are. So $3,700 would have been a really great profitable year. My other biggest expense, bar none, is my feeders. Between my frozen thawed rats and my live ASFs in 2022, I spent $4,519 on feeders. Now, before everybody tells me you could just breed your own, you could save all that money, first, I don't want to. $4,500 is not enough to overcome my desire to not want to. That's me, not anybody else, just me. Second, I'm highly allergic to these animals. I would be miserable doing it. Thirdly, the time, the effort, and there is overhead to owning rats. I mean, all you got to do is look at another video to hear. Check out the Holdback Rack podcast. Jana and Jessica just did a whole video on the expenses of rats these days, or rodents. Just feeding them is very expensive. The time it takes is very expensive. I am lucky that I have a great local breeder. Shout out to Tradesman Exotics. That's Tito. He kills it. I don't worry about the quality of my rodents because they're in good hands coming from Tito. And truthfully, we haven't talked prices and I don't know when. He tells me what I owe him, I pay the man. I have healthy animals, I have healthy rodents coming for my animals, and it's dependable. I'm proud to say not once have I missed paying Tito, and I'm proud to say he has not once ever left me hanging on not having food for me. Why would I mess with that? I don't need that headache. I don't want it. The second part of it is heading into 2023. I made some good moves on sponsorship deals. I can't divulge those because that is proprietary, private arrangements between me and my sponsors. But I will just say I've alleviated a lot of those costs. The benefits of the sponsorship will offset a lot of my rodent costs. So those are going to come down. $5,200 I definitely could have done better on with the discretionary expenditures. Then in 2023, I expect my overhead on feeders to come way down. I will have overhead. I'm not in the freebie game yet on rodents. So I will still have expenses on those, but I expect those expenses to be 50% less. So right there is about $7,500 that I would have been profitable on $15,000 in revenue. Hey, that's pretty good. That's 50% profitability. That's a 50% margin. All right, that's cool. Here's where life gets really interesting, and it really needs some context. Breeding ball pythons in 2022, I was doing that. I'm also a professional musician, which doesn't provide as much revenue as I did in ball pythons. However, it's nearly all profit, nearly 100% profit. Thirdly, I was still employed in 2022. I was doing remote consulting work for property that I've worked for a long time, and I had the security of being an employee, and I had a steady paycheck. Put all those together, and I had a really, really good financial 2022. What that means is I didn't need the money that I was generating from ball pythons and that profitability. I could use that $7,500 or plus $1,500 that I lost. So I could use that $9,000 to set myself up for the future when the future is less certain. Why is the future less certain? My job is gone. I am fully self-employed. As of January 1st, 2023, for the first time in my life, I am completely self-employed. I am not an employee of any other company, and I have no idea what the future is going to bring. I know what I want it to bring and what I hope it brings, but I do not know what it brings. So it made sense to take the known of a good year in 2022 overall, outside of ball pythons, and buy my MacBook and buy my racks and get that sink plumbed, and to invest in buying collections and bulk animals where I could buy them for lower than retail prices. All of this is in the mindset of an author that I actually don't think I would like him personally, but I like his philosophies. Robert Kiyosaki is his name. He wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You could check that out. He's become kind of the most famous proponent of this model of business, but even guys like Clark Howard, financially I adore Clark Howard. I've learned a lot from him over the years. Basically, the philosophy is if in your life and in your livelihood you can have positive cash flow, which means all of your expenses are covered, you're generating enough income to sustain your livelihood and your quality of life, and I live pretty modestly, I'll be the first to admit, then take that extra money, whatever's left over, and invest that into assets that will grow you money. So assets to me are not just things, they're not just goods. They have to be something that will make you more money. Will the MacBook make me money? It's going to help me do these videos quicker and in better quality and hopefully attract more customers. Okay, I'll give that a check mark. But the biggest assets that are going to make me more money are animals. The snakes. I'm going to advance my projects. I'm going to jump in line instead of breeding het to het. I'm going to go buy a visual so that I don't have to worry about the 66% hets. I can have 100% hets, or I could have a higher chance of making visuals. You see, I improved my asset column. But let's look at this a different way. Remember when I told you I lost $1,500 this year? What if I told you, well, let's break this down. That comes out to about $125.65 per month. 125 bucks a month. Just remember that number for a minute. So that's what I lost this year out of pocket. Okay, cash flow, I could have sold one animal for 1,500 bucks and we'd be at break even zero and we'd be happy. Why? I'll tell you why in a minute. But we'd be happy because I had good money coming in from my job. I made money as a musician. And here's the cool thing. At the end of 2021, we're going back even one more year. At the end of 2021, all of my snakes that I had in my inventory had a market value that I believed realistically. Now don't lie to yourself when you're doing this exercise. Do an honest market valuation at retail, not at bulk, not at a collection sale, but at a individual snake sale over time. I valued my collection at the end of 2021 at $14,640. Good, bad, whatever that might be. That was 27 snakes, I believe. At the end of 2022, the year that we're talking about, the year that I lost $1,500, I now value my collection, which is I think at 87 snakes, 80-ish snakes. And this is at taking into account current market conditions. I value my assets at $49,032. So what if I told you that for 125 bucks a month out of pocket, you could triple or grow your assets by $33,000? So in that light, I did not lose. Those are just unrealized gains. So that $49,000, those are goods. That's inventory that I've either grown, produced, held back, or bought at a value and was able to grow my assets. So breaking even or losing a little bit, but growing for the future can be long-term profitable, where on paper this year it'll show that I lost. Talk to your tax professional about that stuff. I actually haven't gone to see my tax professional in 2023. If I'm totally wrong about what I'm telling you here, I'm going to do an update, but this is as I understand it. This year, heading into the unknown, I'm probably not going to spend as much discretionary and investment money. I'm going to let this investment grow. Now, famous last words. If I hit it out of the park on my consulting company and my self-employment with restaurants just turns into a great source of income, by all means, I will grow my assets. I also am interested in buying a rental property. This is the first time in 14 years that I've not had a rental property. We sold our primary home and moved into the rental property in May of 2021, and since then we have not had a rental property. I would like to do that in 2023, speaking of growing my asset column. But those are all goals, so don't get caught up sometimes in just the profitability. Now, if ball pythons were my only source of income, that would have been a disaster. I'd be in the gutter. I can't live on no money. So my goal for 2023 is absolutely to be simplistically profitable, more income than expenses, at least by five figures. I mean, I need to make at least 10,000 in profits this year that I'm not planning on putting back into the business that I can set on the side. Now, again, if I make that money unexpectedly, consulting or music, boom, I'll get right back to investing. I'm pretty well set up. I'm on the path to have about 55 breeding females in 2 to 3 years. They'll be mature anyhow, whether they go or not, in 2 to 3 years. I have all my capital and infrastructure in place to be able to handle a collection where I have, again, where I have 55 breeding females and up to around 20 breeding males. That would do some incredible things. I mean, I could really produce some incredible animals with the stock that I have right now. Again, I'm hoping to make more. I'm hoping that I have money and that's investable money but I gotta look really closely at my whole total cash flow to decide what I'm willing to put back into the business in this year. So that's gonna be the story of this third year of breeding. So that's my outlook. That's where we're going from back into really the end of 2021, all of 2022's finances, and looking forward into 2023. What do you think I missed? What do you think I'm looking at it the wrong way? What are your own goals? I hope that you all did well, and I hope this gives you a little bit of perspective. On YouTube, we put out this like expectation that we're all the experts, because otherwise, why would we have a YouTube channel? But that's not the case. We're growing together. We're evolving together. Thank you so much for being part of my journey. I hope that you'll keep it right here on the Proper Royals channel and check out these videos. I'll tell you everything that I have going on here, and I'll tell you if I make any money in the future or not. Thank you so much for joining me today. Cannot wait until I get to see you in the next video. Until next time, see ya!